back to The Silence of the Spiritsong, episode 10. We have a full crew again this week. Welcome back, Caesar. I'm happy the hurricane didn't blow you away. Quick recap from last session. You finally set off from the Jowa Evertree, heading towards the waterfall where so much seems to be happening. That is where Koji, 1,000 years ago, was first found and enlisted to be part of the Spiritsong. That is where apparently Pookie has taken Ruth. And that is where you hope to find Elder Padme, the one and the final Elder Warden of the Jowa Evertree that mysteriously went missing at the time the Spiritsong went silent. You set out at a rapid pace, knowing that Pookie and Ruth had a almost 8-hour head start ahead of you, and they could fly, and whereas you had to make your way through the various forest paths, crossing many streams and rivers along the way in a winding, kind of circuitous path that would take you much longer to get to the waterfall. So you elected to rush. And in that rushing, you first passed through a lotus swamp where you encountered many little new friends, ? They were tiny little globes of light within which there was a shadow of a creature, both humble folk and bird folk alike. They were curious about you, and you could sense that they were trying to determine whether or not you were friend or foe. That question, I think, remained unanswered, where old Bog tried. Did you actually try to take a swing at one, or you just tried to catch one? I think you didn't actually attack.
No, I think I tried to swat it with my quarterstaff.
There was some sort of baseball bat motion.
Yeah, well, it's a quarter. It's on the screen. It's quarterstaff. It's more of like a baseball bat. Yeah, and I did take a swing at one.
Okay, so while Harlow was trying to make friends with his torch light in her hands, old Bog was swinging away. So I guess these little lights couldn't make up their mind as to whether or not you're friend or foe, and simply disappeared. You continued along your journey deeper into the Dreamwood, rushing as quickly as you can, traveling throughout the night. And as dawn approached, in your exhaustion, you failed to see or hear the campsite in a little gully ahead of you. Unfortunately, you seem to have stumbled into a campsite of a few fire acolytes, ones that perhaps could have been responsible for the torching of Shady Grove not that long ago. A fight ensued. Things were looking a little dodgy. You guys seem to be handling yourselves okay, but it was getting a little dicey in certain times. And when things looked probably the worst, Soto, you heard a voice on the wind, upon which trees surrounding the scully, seemed to come alive and started to assist you in dealing with these fire acolytes. One rending one of these acolytes apart, and another with its massive branches trying to swat them off the cliffs that they were standing upon. And in the middle of this fight, you also notice a giant grizzly bear at the top of a small waterfall who jumped into the fray. It looked like an elderly bear, but full of scars and angry. The fight continued. You enlisted the help of these awakened trees, and with old Bog somehow managing to communicate with one to be lifted up, and I guess practicing his baseball swing, launched one off the cliff and into the river. With the acolytes dealt with, the bear stomped out the last remnants of the one that old Bog dumped into the campfire, seemed to have a connection with Enid. Was most curious about her. Enid, you offered it berries. This was very generous of you, but it just seemed to not care for them as much as it sniffed you. And then started to walk away, beckoning you to follow it, which you did, leading you deeper into the denser parts of the Dreamwood, off the trails, where fog quickly enveloped you and you lose all sense of direction and have difficulty even following the person in front of you without getting lost. However, at the moment where you feel utterly and completely exhausted, battered from the previous fight, and lost, the trees seem to part ahead of you, and the clouds and the fog lift, and you stumble into this beautiful grove with an enormous camphor tree, hollowed out, and the bear that has been guiding you this time transforms back into its natural form, which is a Vesper, an elderly Vesper druid. Selena Starsong. She seems to be something of a recluse and a hermit. It takes a moment for her to find her voice once more, as she has not had an opportunity to communicate with people for a very long time. Her mode of communication has typically been through bird song, chitters of the forest animals. But when she does, she invites you up for tea. And you can clearly see that this is a druid of the stars, as the interior of her hollow is adorned with star charts engraved directly into the trunk of the camphor tree. She seems tired and exhausted, as are you, and she suggests that you spend the night, or now the day, to rest within the grove where you will be safe. And she suggests that you reconvene with her the following evening. This, I think, is a bit of a challenge for Soto to swallow. Being Soto, I mean, you're after his daughter, and this is just another further delay. However, Selene mentions in passing that perhaps there's something she might be able to do to help you in that regard. But rest and recuperation is first and foremost in terms of your priorities and necessities at this time. So you just had to take that long rest. While you do so, a couple of you start exploring. Harlow and Enid, you find, through the help of your little mouse construct, Harlow, a guest bedroom of sorts at the base of this tree, within which is engraved a dragonfly. Clearly, there is some connection here between your mouse, the dragonfly, Selene, who happens to know, by the way, apparently, Professor Silverberry as well. Because she mentioned that the telescope that he possesses was actually a gift to him from her many, many, many years ago. And she seemed somewhat surprised that you would not necessarily accuse Professor Silverberry of anything, but just kind of imply that he was a little sketchy. Because the Professor Silverberry that she knew from those many years ago was nothing like that. So anyway, that's where we ended last session. You guys have your long rest in. Because you arrived at the grove at the break of dawn, you guys will be resting, taking your long rest throughout that day. So by the time we start up again, we'll say it's like late afternoon. Selena Starsong has still retired in her loft. She has not yet come down. Being a Vesper, she's not one who kind of hangs out in the brightest parts of the day. She prefers the twilight and night hours of the forest. And so she has asked for you all to wait until then. But you have a couple of hours to kill in the meantime if there's something you'd like to do.
Well, that was crazy, huh?
Is there anything you guys would like to do, or you just want to wait for Selene to wake up?
I don't want to wake her up, but I do want to have a private conversation with her before she comes down. So if there's anything anyone wants to do before that, we can do that.
I don't want to be the first target.
Go ahead. Oh. I was gonna.
You.
I was gonna ask if any of you guys know like how to detect like undead or spirits or something like that.
Nope.
Well, I'm just like thinking about how to learn more about my mouse here, study it a little bit.
I mean, Harlow, darling, if you ever need me to tell you what school of magic is enchanting this mouse, that's something I can help with.
That could be useful. I would really appreciate that. After meeting those sort of firefly spirits before, they seemed pretty nice to me at first. But like, if they're not supposed to exist, if that's potentially not a great kind of magic, then I definitely want to like learn more about the mouse and see what's up. So yeah, if you can, I don't know, it won't hurt it, will it?
No.
Okay.
Terribly. There's only so much I can do. There's a very high chance that I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say maybe you could explain it to the mouse and the mouse can decide if that seems cool with him. But if you're joking, then that's okay. Yeah, I'm going to hold him out.
No, he's completely safe. I will need another feather, though, and I'll look at Soto.
He was definitely just pacing around, just being impatient, kind of angry, but...
Soto, my dad mouse needs a feather.
Another one? Fine. He'll pluck one out and give it to you and go back to pacing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll cast Identify on the mouse.
Okay. Enid, you take this mouse in your hands, and up close you can see exactly how marvelous this creation is. The detail, the gemwork of its eyes, the likeness of it are simply amazing. And as you cast your Identify spell on it, a number of things hit you that just seem very strange. First, it has a strong sense of necromantic magic on it. Secondly, you being a wizard, I need you to make an Arcana check with advantage.
Can do. Sure. Wherever those are. What do I hold down for advantage again?
Alt.
Oh, right, yeah.
Are you
No.
serious?
Holy
That's
shit.
huge.
I didn't even see that. It was like a lag, and you guys were reacting, and I couldn't see.
Oh, man. I am
That's
sorry
huge.
for that
I
roll.
can't
2
believe
ones. I've
that.
never seen that before.
That's incredible. In the worst way. I'm so sorry.
Enid rolls really badly, guys. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Oh.
Well, I have to honor the double nat ones.
That's
Double that once.
Holy
Does that even count?
That's sad.
That's insane. She gets Alzheimer's.
believe it.
Oh no.
This-
Right on the spot.
I don't even know what I like. There's some like Caesar shenanigans I could try to pull with this, but like,
Caesar shenanigans.
what do I even do with that?
Seems like a mouse.
All right, yeah, exactly. You know, uh, again, it's kind of like when you looked at Professor Silverberry's tome, and even the star charts that were around you. I mean, you rolled badly in each of those instances, trying to understand these things.
It's insane, and you've always given me advantage very nicely.
Um,
Fine.
so you know, this thing is there's powerful, very powerful necromantic magic associated with this mouse. You know that there's something up with it. And you know it's very powerful magic, meaning it's likely a very high level spell associated with this mouse. But you can't put your finger on it.
Just out of curiosity, it's like I don't know how to. Is there like a flavor of Kieran in this magic?
No. You can tell with, I will give you this, with the identify spell. This thing was constructed. It was constructed by a master artificer meant to hold a soul. But you don't know much beyond that. It's very powerful magic. That the artifact itself, the mouse itself, and just magic aside, is of incredible craftsmanship. But then on top of that, there's been some enchantment of necromantic nature.
And like what I know after the necromantic wars, like because necromancy wouldn't be practiced openly. So are there like circles of necromantic pockets or
So necromancy wasn't completely outlawed. There are some spells from the school of necromancy that are useful, particularly those like clerics who operate in the grave domain, perhaps, or the death domain, the ones who actually try to help stave off death and trying to cure people. So there's some necromantic magic there, but it is very highly, not necessarily regulated, but people are very safe with it, and they don't experiment. It's not meant to like raise the dead or do anything funky with souls or anything like that. It's mainly what use there is of necromancy has been used to heal and help as much as it can.
I tell all this to Harlow. Harlow, darling, I'm not sure what I'm going to tell you isn't necessarily inherently bad or good. It's all in your reaction or how you take it. But this mouse is living through necromantic magic. I can't tell you. It's very powerful necromantic magic. Only a few people would know how to do this. I can't tell you what it is. Maybe you could check.
So
Go back in your knowledge of things that are.
can I wonder how old it is, like how when it was made.
Okay, that's a fair
Um,
question. That's something you would be able to find with your identify spell too. That
Yeah.
it was. It's not ancient. It's probably a few decades old.
It's a few decades old.
Okay. So
And sorry, one more thing, one more detail. The necromantic magic was placed on it after it was created.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It seems like the mouse was built and then some soul, I guess, or something was put inside it, like the vessel. So it was done later. So we can't know yet how long it's been more than clockwork, really. Hmm. Well, that's information anyway. And you said Kieran wasn't involved in any of that part of it.
I didn't feel Kieran.
Okay. I don't know. I'll keep studying it and see if there's anything else we can figure out.
Definitely a starting point on more research.
Thank you,
We both-
Enid.
Of course.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go find old dog. I'm gonna like come up behind him wherever he is. What are you up to, old dog?
Old Bog gets up at the crack of noon and cracks all his achy joints, and you might have a hard time finding him. He wanders off into the woods for
Okay.
some contemplation. He's thinking about the fire druids, thinking about his daughter, thinking about Shady Grove. He's getting pretty welled up, and his heart starts hurting, and it's just sort of like clutches himself and like internally like cries out why, and he gets an answer from Kareth, and he uses his blessing of the suffering heart feature, and he knows Daisy's gone, but his heart is reaching out to Ruth. He wants to know if Ruth is okay.
Okay. Oh, Bog, when you say you're trying to wander through the forest, are you trying to leave the grove or are you going to stay within?
Just find a place of quiet contemplation, not too far, but
Okay.
stretching his joints, lubing his joints up a little bit, just sort of wandering a place where he can, be by himself, so others don't see him get emotional.
Okay. You find a little area behind the camphor tree. You see there is a small, what looks to be a pond within the grove. There's a bench there, and it's quite clearly a place that Selene frequents as a place of solitude and meditation. You take a seat on the wooden bench by this pond, looking at these small little lily pads and insects buzzing about, dragonflies, bees. And as you gaze into this water and you see a reflection of yourself, what do you see?
Oh, well, in real life, when you get old and you look in the mirror, you don't even recognize the person that you see. But you young folk, you don't have to worry about that for another couple of years. But yeah, so much like myself, old Bog looks into the still water, and he doesn't even recognize the lines on his face, the spotty growth of his hair. He's just like, who is this person? And then he realizes, oh, it's me. This is what I've turned into.
And as you look at your reflection, almost like a stranger in the surface of this pond, and that pain and of loss of your daughter, fresh in your mind from just a couple of days ago, really. You haven't even really had a chance to grieve her yet. And as these feelings start to well up inside of you, and you call upon Kareth for guidance, and you direct this pain and your gift of sight to Ruth, it's almost as if the surface of the pond begins to ripple And through those ripples, you see a waterfall. It's a beautiful turquoise colored waterfall, quite large, landing in a large basin with a river kind of draining from it. On one side, at the base of the waterfall, on rocky, moss-covered stones, you see Pookie. And in his lap is Ruth. And you can tell that Pookie's, just from his posture, is being quite protective of her. And your vision kind of pans up and across the waterfall. And as you look up, you see what looks to be almost like you think at first it's just a puff of mist or of the water, kind of water vapor, just kind of crossing your field of vision. But then upon second glance, you notice that it has form. And you see a tiny lumen child kind of floating in the air, almost ethereal, wearing white robes. And he seems to be smiling, and you look down at Ruth, and Ruth is smiling back at them, and they seem to be singing. You get nothing but a sense of happiness and joy from seeing this. There's no threat to them that you can feel or see in this vision. Your vision pans across the pond, and you notice that it is filled with enormous swans. Beautiful white swans cover the basin of where the waterfall kind of falls into. And on the far bank, you see a Gerbine woman dressed in white warden robes, sitting in lotus position on a rock, watching the interaction between Ruth and the spirit. And there's a smile on her face. And with that, the ripples on the pond seem to still over, and once again, you see a reflection of yourself.
Bog squints his eyes and maybe nudges back some eye watering, and just swells his chest with a big breath and blows it out. And with the exhale just comes a wave of relief, calm, and puts his hands on his knees and pushes himself to a standing position, and sort of nods his head, maybe to acknowledge Kareth, and starts to hobble back to the tree. Gotta find Soto, he says to himself. Gotta let him know Ruth is okay. I'll make my way back.
All right. While you're making your way back, I'll say, Harlow, you see Old Bog returning from this pond.
Okay, I'm gonna come down the steps and walk over to Bog and kind of like start walking in step with him. Hey, Bog, I was just wondering if you know anything about mice.
About what? Mice?
Mice, yeah,
And-
in general.
Try not to step on them, I guess.
That's pretty cool. I'm like so impressed by Bog. He's so tall and seems very dad-like, so I'm like just like super interested in everything you're saying. Have you ever had like a pet mouse?
No. I don't got time
No.
for pets.
Oh, well, I'm trying to learn more about my mouse, and everyone is so good at different things. And it seems like not really a mouse, but it kind of acts like one. And I'm just trying to see I don't know. I don't know what to even do with it.
Here,
But
give it. And he puts out his hands.
All right, be nice because it might probably be a person. It's a
What?
person mouse. Well, it's like a construct with like somebody's consciousness inside of it. So don't squish it, okay?
Just blows his mind. So you put it in his hand.
I'll put it in your hand.
He raises it up in front of his face and pokes at it. And there's somebody in there. Anybody in there? Come on out.
The mouse just gives a high-pitched squeal and a squeak, jumps right out of your hand, scampers onto the ground, and crawls up your leg. Harlow.
Well, I guess it didn't like that very much, but that's probably any normal mouse would probably react like that. So I don't know if I learned
Yeah.
very much,
Yeah.
but
Well,
worth
he's
a
cute.
shot.
Yeah.
How are
Hey,
you doing?
You seen Soto around?
Last I saw, he was up like in the main room at the tree.
Well, that's where I'm headed. Where are you
Okay.
headed?
I don't know. I was just gonna try to talk to everybody and see if they knew anything about mice or dead people or spirits or anything useful to this mouse thing.
Nope. I don't know anything about any of that stuff.
Okay, well, I'll go with you then.
All right. Old Bog just starts walking.
Before you guys get back to the trees, I want to know what Kokoro, what have you been up to this morning or this afternoon?
It's a good question. Honestly, probably just still pondering his phylogeny and where he comes from, and just kind of having like probably like a quiet moment to himself after everything that happened. Not knowing how to bring up to Soto that Merle's gonna get a lot of wine.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Like
Um,
a lot.
God, this
Um,
was
yeah.
So just having some, a thoughtful morning, so to speak.
And as you're reflecting on everything and wondering how Merle is going to react and if you got Soto into trouble for doing what you did, your hand kind of slips into your cloak and you feel the box containing the feather.
Okay. I'll take it out and I'll open the box and kind of dump the feather. Not really pick it up. I'll just kind of dump it down and see and stare.
It falls kind of just gently to the moss-covered floor of this grove.
And I just yell at it, "What do you mean? What is your point? I don't understand." And I just stare at it.
All right. As Harlow and Old Bog are making their way back to the tree, you see Kokoro staring at the ground, yelling at it. And you would see the feather lying on the ground in front of him.
Old Bog will look at Harlow.
He's I don't know, he's having a tough morning, I guess.
I'm throwing like a straight up like Kylo Ren princess pity party. Is he fit on this feather on the floor?
Okay, I'm gonna kind of do the like face at Bog and
Bog's like, say something to him.
I don't know what to say. I feel like I escalate these kinds of situations more often than not. Okay. Kokoro!
What?
You good? You good, man? How's it? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. And I'll pick up the feather and I'll put it in the box and put the box away.
I'm gonna look at Bog and be like, you were right. We fixed it.
What are you guys up to? What is your morning looking like?
Well, Bog was hanging out at a pond. I don't know what was in the pond. Something cool, probably.
Hmm.
My mouse is a person. And
Your
probably,
what is a who?
yes, my mouse is a person. It's got a person inside.
A real
I-
person?
Well, maybe not a person. It could be anything. It's like got some kind of necromantic magic on it that made it have some kind of consciousness. It could be a dog or something, just a
Hmm.
dog and a mouse, like as an experiment situation.
Hmm.
But I'm pretty sure it is my dad. And
Your dad is a mouse.
well, not originally, not to
Okay.
start with. Yes, he started out like me, presumably.
Your dad is a
Um,
that was in my pack that is now a mouse that is a robot.
And I think so. He knew Silverberry and Selene
You're-
because I just found his maker's mark on something in the guest bedroom because I was snooping. And the mouse went in there to show me it and pointed it out. And yeah, Silverberry also worked with my dad. And it's just kind of a weird situation all around. So I think mouse, I don't know. My dad made the mouse too. Many years before something got
Your
put
dad
in.
made himself?
He made kind of. Oh, does that make me my own grandmother?
This is amazing. Can I meet your father?
Maybe. You can meet the mouse and we'll find out eventually if it's my father. But sure.
Okay. Do you have him?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm gonna look back in my pocket and see if the mouse stayed. Just
Right?
pull him
The
out.
mouse, you just see the mouse staring back up at you.
Okay, Dad Mouse. Have you I don't think I've introduced you to Kokoro before. Okay, I'm gonna hold him out and be like, this is it.
Okay, I'm gonna like gingerly approach and I'm gonna say, Mr. Harlow, sir, nice to meet you. And I'm just gonna extend like my feather and try to grab his tiny little mouse hand.
His name is Remy, I think.
You think your dad's name is Remy?
If the mouse is my dad, then the mouse's name is Remy.
Okay.
That's my dad. That was my dad's name. I found that out a few days ago.
Okay. I formally shake his hand.
Does the mouse go along with the handshake?
When you say the name Remy, the mouse kind of turns around in your hand and looks directly at you.
What did I do? What did I do? What did I do?
I think you recognize the name. I'm gonna look at my mouse and be like, do you know that name? Do you recognize that?
As you ask this question directly at the mouse you hold in your hands, you hear clearly in your mind, Harlow, it's me. And as it answers your questions, you visibly see the mouse age. It's as if some of the mechanics of this mouse suddenly start to rust. And you can hear kind of clicks and clacks coming from it as it moves its joints now. And it looks a little tarnished all of a sudden when it answers your question.
What's happening? What's happening to you?
I'm like freaking out doing circles because I think I ruined this mouse.
I'm gonna pull it closer. Can I fix this? Are you hurt? What's going on?
As it looks at you, it says, Please, my beloved daughter, stop asking questions. And as it answers you, it deteriorates even more in your hands.
Harlow is speechless because nothing, she doesn't have any thought that isn't a question. I'm like stuck. Like,
Harlow, talk to me. What's happening to Dadlow?
he is, I don't know, has some kind of like genie hex on him where he runs out of questions and disintegrates apparently. But it's definitely my dad. Or something trying to convince me it's my dad, but he says it's my dad. This is really messed up. I'm gonna put him inside real quick. I'm gonna turn very gently and try not to like squish it and start like walking towards the tree. Is everybody still here? Kokoro and Fog, are you still here with me?
Mm-hmm,
I am.
Okay.
How can we help? How can we help? What's happening to Dadlow? Did I do this? Did I do this? What's happening?
You didn't do anything.
Okay.
He heard me say his name
Okay.
and then
Did he recognize it?
in my mind, he turned around and looked at me when I said his name, and I said, "Is that you? Do you recognize it?" And then, I mean, I shouldn't repeat questions. I didn't really ask a question. I didn't ask it. I'm just repeating. I'm quoting. I didn't ask.
Look at me. Look at me. To look at the Dadlow. Look at me.
Rules. Okay. And then he answered and said, "Harlow, my daughter." I couldn't say beloved out loud. And then he said, "Stop asking questions," when I asked him another thing. And both times I asked him something and he like started to get all rusty and messed up. Enid knows necromantic, magical, some magic things. Well, I'm gonna ask Enid things. I'm very carefully, I'm trying to like walk. I'm so stiffly walking towards the tree to find Enid. Can you guys like warn me if I'm gonna like step on a root or something? I'm so worried I'm gonna like step and like fling it somewhere.
Yeah. I'm like goalie protecting her
All
like as she walks.
walking like crazy like this up the tree. Thank you.
In the tree, Soto, where would you be? You're just pacing in that room impatiently?
Yeah, probably. I assume it's not too far from where everyone was sleeping.
Yep.
So I don't think he's wandered very far. I also have it in my brain that, birds molt when they're stressed. I like to think he has a couple little patches going on from all that's happening. And, if Enid needs some more feathers, he could probably give you some more. So, yeah, just impatiently pacing, not doing anything else.
And Enid, you're in the sitting room waiting for any sign of Selene waking up so you could speak with her privately.
Trying to read the walls again, but I rolled really low on those too, so I'm just kind of looking at them.
You know it's important, but you don't understand.
So I'm just sitting there going like, having a Kokoro moment. What do you mean?
It's the new
like coming to another Kylo Ren princess moment.
All right, so y'all managed to reconvene. Let's say it's around 4 p.m. in the afternoon, 4, maybe 5. You're back in the sitting room all together. Harlow, you enter gingerly holding this mouse. When you all look at Harlow holding this mouse, you can see that from the last time you saw it, patches of whatever fake fur was on it have fallen off. You can see rust visibly covering portions of it. It looks like one of the legs almost seems to be dislocated. You can kind of see the springs and mechanisms kind of holding it in place there. It is clearly not as well put together as it was just a few moments ago.
I'm gonna go to any kind of like surface in here with like decent lighting. And I'm gonna like try to take a close look and see if like there's anything I can do to sort of like patch it up. Like if my meticulous maintenance, I can fix it like a gadget or something. Like, does it look familiar enough to me that I could do something?
Sure. Go ahead and make a Tinker's Tool check for me, please.
Okay.
Can I give her Bardic?
You sure can.
Okay.
This is me giving her Bardic.
Does that give advantage or is it
You get a D6, I think.
D6, yeah.
okay?
All right, that's an 11.
Yeah.
You
Oh.
look at this while you're
So 15 total.
15, okay. All right, 15 total. While you take out your tools and you gingerly try to start examining your mouse, seeing if there's any way you can repair it. What are the rest of you doing? Old Bog, you mentioned you were looking for
Yeah.
something.
Go up to Soto and say, hey, I saw Ruth. She's okay.
I think it's gonna start to open his mouth to say something, but then close it and then just look at you in the eye for a moment. And then finally ask after like a moment of processing, just how?
I'll reach out to put my hand on Soto's shoulder and say, I just know. I saw it. She's with Pookie. Pookie's protecting her.
I see. Well, no matter the circumstances, you are still a father. And father to father, I will trust what you say.
Yep, I ain't shitting you.
Thank you.
Just gotta keep going. We'll find her.
I surely hope so.
Bog just nods. Takes his hand off Soto's shoulder. That's all he says.
All right. Harlow, in this time, as you examine your dad mouse,
Dadlo?
you realize something strange. That the deterioration of this construct, it's like natural aging. There's only so many times you can put a body back together again before it just starts losing resiliency and just becomes more frail with time. And that is exactly precisely what you're seeing with this mouse. It is almost as if it's aging and disintegrating. There's no way you can physically repair this. It is magical in nature.
Okay. I wish I could ask you how to fix this. I don't even think I could build another plain mouse without something cool inside.
Can
Well-
it identify? Did I get the sense that it was undead, or just that there was a soul inside of a construct through necromantic?
The latter. All right. So you're all sitting in this little sitting room. There's a bowl of good berries beside you if you guys start to get peckish. There's a teapot. You can make yourself some tea if you like. And as the last few hours of daylight wane and the sun sets, you hear stirring above you in the loft where Selene retired the previous night. She's wakened.
I'd like to go up just for a short,
Okay.
just knock. If she has a door.
No, it's like a just a ladder straight up into a loft area. So you kind of just poke your head up over the side, and you'll see her getting out of a bed, just kind of hunched over. It kind of has a light, kind of almost like a bathrobe kind of that she's pulling up around her, and she's reaching for her staff, and she's just trying to pulling herself up to her feet when you poke your head over, and she sees you and says, "Oh, I was just about to come down. Is there something I can help you with?"
I didn't mean to disturb you. And I'll like help her out of bed.
Okay.
Our conversation about Silverberry last night, I hope wasn't distressing. I find myself in a way of thinking that entails that maybe I live a little bit too much in the gray area of things, and I myself am not very sure. Innocent until proven guilty, I guess. But I have this, and I want to show her the telescope. And this seems to be of significance to you, and I'm not sure I really even know how to properly use it. I was hoping maybe you could show me.
When you pull out the telescope, her eyes go wide, and there's a broad smile on her face as she sits back down on her bed, leans the staff against the wall, and just kind of raises her two hands as if to gingerly accept the telescope from you.
I'll give it to her. Yeah.
And as she takes it from you, she looks at it, and you can see her going back in time within her mind. And she's smiling. And just, it has been so long since I've seen this. Did Silverberry give this to you?
There were many things that he was a good mentor. Is a good mentor. I don't know where he is.
She looks at it and ponders it a bit. Go ahead and make an insight roll for me, please, as you watch her react to holding this telescope in her hand.
Got it. That's not terrible, but I'm great.
Again, she seems a little lost in thought. The smile kind of fades for a brief moment. And she holds it out to you again for you to take back. If Silverberry wished for you to have it, then you should have it.
Is there like a trick to it? Is there something I'm not seeing? I have to admit I've not been feeling my most useful. I was hoping this might help.
When I gifted this to Silverberry, it was many, many years ago. You can see, even with that 11 roll, that whenever she mentions his name, there is like a moment of like a hitch in her voice almost. And you can tell that her relationship with him was pretty profound, that they meant a lot, or he meant a lot to her. There were two parts to this gift. There was a tome and a telescope. We promised each other at that time that no matter the distance between us, that we would always have the stars.
I know the feeling. The tome. He also gave me his writings. I don't know if that's...
You have the tome as well?
Not currently on me. Harlow was reading it. But if there was any context you could give to...
She frowns a little at this and asks, may I ask under what circumstances he gave these items to you?
rushed and find myself in a difficult position of sharing with you. I don't mean to cause disruption. But if I'm being honest with you, it felt as if it was a parting gift.
Is he well?
The last time I saw him,
She reaches for her staff and, with a groan, pulls herself up from her bed again.
I'll help.
And oh, thank you. And she walks towards the trap door to the not necessarily the trap door, to the ladder leading down to the main room. Says, please, follow me. And she painstakingly, one rung at a time, lowers herself down to the main room. And then the rest of you who are sitting there, you can see her coming down, followed by Enid. She sees all of you sitting there and says, oh, I'm terribly sorry. I hope you weren't waiting for me all this time. You must be famished. Let me prepare a little meal for us. And she kind of hobbles over to a little cooking area, and it's a tiny little kitchen. You have no idea how she's going to prepare a meal for the 6 of you now in this tiny little, like, not even a worn burner type stove kitchen. But she starts pulling herbs and roots and vegetables out of cupboards and whatnot, and starts preparing.
I'll help her. She's so frail.
Yes, I hope you had a pleasant time in my grove and you're fully rested.
Yes, it was very comfortable.
And as she cooks and you're helping Enid, she pauses every once in a while to look at you and says, you must have so many questions.
More than you could believe.
Oh, I will do what I can to answer. And she looks at you, Soto. I can sense urgency from you. I feel I'm keeping you from something.
That would not be a lie.
But you must eat first before you go. You must keep your strength up.
Just gonna see him, like, he probably has his arms crossed. He's probably just tapping one feathered finger. And she says that. Oh, I remembered something. I remembered what I wanted to say to Old Bog last session. Can I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, Old Bog, I don't know where you're sitting. I'm gonna assume you sat next to Soto.
Sure.
It doesn't really matter. Okay.
Yeah.
But he's going to tap you on the shoulder and whisper, Old Bog, may I ask you a question?
Yup.
I'm curious. Why are you so loyal to my cause and my daughter when I could not help save yours? It's
Well,
written in my thoughts.
sometimes you just gotta put one foot in front of the other and fix the problems that you can fix, and we'll catch up with the ones that have left us in the future. But for now, gotta do what we gotta do for your kid. If I can't do it for mine.
He'll just nod and say, "You're a good man."
Shrugs his shoulders. You can tell it means something to him, but he won't show it.
Okay, that was it. You can continue, Andrew. Thank you.
Okay. As the rest of you kind of sit there watching her cook, and it's almost painful to watch her cook. She moves so slowly and so deliberately. And Soto, you can kind of sense that impatience welling up inside of you. You just want to hit the road again. But incredibly, after just after 10 minutes, almost as if all of the food that she has been cutting and preparing last 10 minutes just suddenly amalgamates into this incredible feast. And there are platters of roasted vegetables, and salads and bowls of berries, and she somehow managed to concoct an enormous black forest cake in and you're kind of left wondering, how the hell did she do that? And she invites you all to partake in this meal. And as you all sit and arranged around this small table, food kind of overflowing from it, and the scents, the smells from this food is just like filling your head, and it just feels like home. The smell of a home cooked meal. And she just kind of gently sits herself down in this ancient knotted wooden chair with a little sigh. So, eat. And while you eat, I will answer what questions you might have of me.
As soon as she says that, I'm going to say, "How did you know Remy and Honey?" She's not even done talking, and I've got it like.
She, Remy and Honey. Oh, that was some time ago. Yes, the Honey. Honey visited me many years ago, and at that time she brought with her, I think, her boyfriend. Yes, it was a boyfriend. Her name was Remy. And she studied with me for a brief time here in the Grove.
Oh. How long was she here for?
Oh, time is a funny thing, especially when you get to my age. Many moon cycles, though. She was a fast learner, always curious.
I
And
read.
she looks at you and says, "You remind me of her.
How so?
You have her eyes and her curiosity."
Is that good?
It's always good to be curious, child.
I don't know very much about her, and I've been trying to learn more. If there was anything you could tell me about her, or if she's connected to what we're doing. That would be very helpful. Did they meet Professor Silverberry and the professors at the Insing Outpost through you?
I did introduce them, yes. She was a fast study, and with that, she kind of lifts herself up from her seat, leaning heavily on her staff, and she walks over to one of the walls filled with the star charts. And you can just see her. She turns her back to you while you eat, and she can see her just kind of tracing lines between stars. She said, yes, yes, there she is.
What? What do you mean? Did she carved this, or?
No, my child, the stars tell a story of where we're from and guide
told
us to where we must go.
And this constellation is of honey?
Yes.
I'm gonna walk up to it and take a look and see if it looks familiar or if it's something I've studied before or what I can discern.
Go ahead and make a straight intelligence or arcana check.
Okay. I'm gonna roll Arcana. Oh my god, we're not meant to know what these say.
Information.
All right. You look at it, and it just looks like a bunch of like little star-shaped symbols, sometimes connected with lions, and you can't make heads or tails of what she's talking about.
Well, I mean, I studied a lot of nature in my life, but I didn't study stars very much. What is this? I don't really know what this means. What does it say about her?
The stars, my child, they witness everything through the passage of time. And it was at this time when the stars were at this point in the sky that your mother, Honey, spent time here with me in the grove.
Was I being too obvious, or did you already know who I was?
She points to a tiny little star next to the stars she was looking at and says, "This is you. You were conceived here."
You. Well, great. You know, I've been trying to learn things about my past and my family. As long as I can remember. And I feel like I'm only learning the weirdest things. Ugh. Okay, well, so what does that mean? For me to be here in this time with the stars lining up and stuff, like, I'm not supposed to have a baby or something, am I, while I'm here? I feel like I've got enough on my plate.
She takes your hand, and you can feel the age. It's a strong grip, but it's firm and gentle. And she just kind of guides you down further along the wall. It says here. And you can see at this point, you don't even need to make it an arcana check. You can see what looks to be 5 stars converging. This is you and your friends.
Holy shit, Koosut was right.
Nobody mention it to Koosut or we'll never hear the end of it.
Yeah, no. This secret dies with us.
All right, well, hopefully that won't be for a while. Wait, is that in here too?
Are we dying?
Look for exploding stars on the walls really quick.
You see, Selene is a little confused by that comment. Says, exploding? I assure you, the food will not explode, nor will my home, I hope. But here. And she points to 2 more stars. One etched more deeply, and you can get a sense that it is bright. That means it's bright. And one that is barely visible. And you can see a faint line connecting the 5 stars that represent you to those 2. And you can see that she has brought you to the end of her star chart.
Who? What are these?
That is where the stars guide you now. There is a strong bond between yours, as she looks at you, Soto, and the brightest star.
These are souls, people like us. And Koji? Does this
She
mean
looks-
they're together now?
She looks at the 2 stars, one etched deeply and bright, and the other one just barely visible. And she kind of runs her fingers over them, closes her eyes, and says, "One burns bright with hope, love, and the other is just a distant whisper of it."
We need to make them both bright.
No. No, my dear. There can be only one.
What? Why? How? Why? What?
In all things, there must be balance. With life, there must be death. And the circle continues.
Circle sucks. Well, what happens if Koji fades away?
There is the other star.
I don't like this train of thought that I'm having right now.
But you see, and she gestures to a blank spot on the wall beyond those 2 stars. The stars can only guide. I can do my best to divine their intentions in the future, but there is no certainty there.
Well, we're trying to find both of them right now. That's where we're going. We're supposed to find them at the waterfall where Koji, I think the dimmer spirit, the dimmer star, was born, where he lived. But apparently one of the Joa elders, Padme, is there. Do you know her?
She shakes her head. No,
Hmm.
I do not.
Hmm.
She looks to you, Soto, and says, "This bright star of yours, that is who you are in such a rush to see once more."
Before he answers, you see that he hasn't touched his food at all. It reminds him too much of home. He has not been actively eating it at all. He's probably just been pushing it around with any sort of cutlery or whatever. But at this point, I think he would just push it away from him and say, Yes.
Then it is haste that you wish to be reunited with this star of yours. I may be able to help.
How so?
There is a network of these great trees throughout the Dreamwood. And there is one not too far from the waterfall you wish to travel to. I can open a gateway between these trees for you to travel.
I'll do anything. Just tell me where to go.
Eat. You will
Shit,
need your
lady.
strength.
Why didn't you tell us that yesterday?
She shrugs. Well, there's a time and a place. You needed rest. You needed a full belly.
Oh, hell.
I'm not entertaining this conversation anymore.
Hey, Starsong, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Who are these, flaming jackwagons who want to burn the forest down?
Oh, that's a scowl crosses her face, and this is the first time you have seen her upset or angry. And for a brief moment, you almost see the visage of the bear kind of coming through her own face. It says, a plague upon the Dreamwood. They are members of an ancient order, the Eternal Flame. They would see the Dreamwood burn into ash.
Where are they from? Who leads them?
She casts her gaze back to her wall, and you can see it going all the way to the other end at the beginning of recorded time on this wall of hers. And she kind of shuffles over there, kind of bends down low and points to another set of 5 stars. One of them very dim. And connected to it, another star. It's, the 5 that ushered in the Spiritsong. And her fingers kind of caressed the dimmest star. This one, Delilah. And then she traces the line back to a star before it. Her mother, perhaps enraged at the loss of her daughter to this war. She turned to the necromancers and the eternal flame. Burned the world down in her wrath.
Selfish. I get it.
And what would you do at the loss of your daughter, Old Bog?
Tie a knot and hang on. You saying that person, Delilah's mom, still walks the forest?
She looks across the chart once more, kind of walks back to more recent times where there's another conjunction of your 5 stars and another faded star, and says, no, you have ended her already. She is at rest.
Well, how's her order carry on then?
Her remnants after the calamity at Shady Grove have scattered throughout the Dreamwood. They are leaderless for the most part, but they are still dangerous, loathsome, and causing trouble.
Are they, or were they, if you know, still connected with the necromantic order, like you said she turned to way back when?
She looks at you, Kokoro. Tell me, Kokoro, has the necromantic order been reborn?
How should I know?
She looks back at the chart, kind of over her shoulder, and says, your lineage is as plain to me as my hand before my eyes.
I don't practice any of that. To my knowledge, my parents don't practice any of that. And honestly, the only really things I've run into necromantic anything has been since we were foretold by the stars. So honestly, I don't have a good answer for you.
She says, come. She gestures for you to get up from the table.
I get up.
She takes your hand and guides you to a portion about halfway through the star chart. And kind of points to the beginning. It says, at the end of necromantic wars, Kramine, the first necromancer, disappeared. There is no trace of him. Many believe he perished. Others believed he fled beneath the surface of the earth, or deep within the mountains. Others, and she traces kind of a line that kind of veers off from the rest of the stars. This indicates that he went east. These are the stars over the outer islands. And it is there that he has rested all these years. And then she kind of grabs your hand, and you can feel almost like her nails digging into you for a moment as she drags you a little further along, and she kind of forcefully plants a finger on another star. Here. He's back. And you can see next to the star that she's pointing at, another star, deep and bright. And she kind of passes her hand over that one, almost as if she's caressing it. This is Silverberry. 2 stars. Kramine, Silverberry, joined at this time. And you can see 2 other stars kind of there as well. And she looks at you, Harlow, and says, these are your parents. They were all together on the outer isles. But only a single star emerged from it. This one remains shrouded to me.
What does it mean if as I'm talking, can I peek at the stars that she was pointing at actually, and just the 4 stars on the outer islands that were my parents and Silverberry and Crowmine? Does it look like there's like the progression of like 2 of them are gone completely now, or there's not really a way to see if they still exist currently?
So there are the 4 stars, and then a small kind of line, not too distant from it, very close, and only a single star emerging.
Oh, okay. Then this means gone or lost, but not completely gone. Not necessarily dead or permanently. I'm kind of saying under my breath to myself. I'm gonna just sort of hold my little mouse up to this part of the wall and see if it reacts in any way.
The mouse just kind of sniffs the wall, but doesn't seem to react any other way. But then she turns to you, Enid, and says, "But you have mentioned that you have seen Professor Silverberry since this time. So it is his star that emerged from the outer islands."
I studied under him for quite some time. Yes.
Yes, this makes no sense then. If Professor Silverberry defeated Crowman in the Outer Isles, then it's the silence. It's the silence of the Spiritsong that has brought the restless dead back. And perhaps Crowmine is not a threat any longer then.
Is there any history of necromancers having the ability to appear as others?
Necromancy is an ancient and dangerous art. Its secrets are lost to me. But the manipulation of souls, those who have passed, were a common thing in the necromantic wars.
Miss Selene, what was Professor Silverberry like when you knew him before all this?
When you ask that question, you can see a warm smile cross her face, and he was the kindest soul. Always curious, always and ever thoughtful of others before himself. He would spend days with students who might have been struggling at the detriment of his own research. He inspired and instilled wonder amongst his students.
Why did you lose touch?
We walked different paths. It was our love of stars that brought us together. But my path led here. The order of balance is dying. I am the last soul ward of these trees.
What does that mean, Soul Ward?
As time passed and peace came through the Dreamwood after the necromantic wars ended, there was not as much need for caretakers of the Dreamwood. And so our order dwindled. And few took up our cause until I was the last.
Maybe you would know about this. When we were on our way here, we saw in a sort of meadow glade a bunch of what looked like fireflies at first, but seemed to be spirits in these sort of bright lights, and they circled around me. Have you seen that before?
There are many of those within the Dreamwood, places where horrible battles took place and many were slain. What you refer to are will-o-wisps. And spirits of the dead now released with the silence of the Spiritsong. Be careful of those.
Were Have they been there like all along, but now that the Spiritsong is gone, they can appear? Or have they been waiting somewhere all this time? Wow, that's... Imagine like 1,000 years being a spirit and you can't even like... Oh. That seems like a tough life. Or not life. They're dangerous?
Many who are lost in the necromantic wars, I imagine, were lost in a sort of limbo, not able to pass into the other realms of death and trapped. And it is their souls that have been released once more into the Dreamwood with the silence of the Spiritsong.
Selene, have you ever heard of a magic that can pair those souls back with the body?
Are you asking about the will-o-wisps?
Specifically and non-specifically, yes.
The will-o-wisps have no body to return to.
But say there was.
Perhaps they are lost souls.
What if a body was made?
Of these things, I do not know. My domain is that of trees and grass and rivers and streams and all the life that flows within these forests. I know nothing of constructing such things to hold life, other than things of life itself.
Would that be something that a great necromancer like Crowmine would be capable of?
She pauses for a moment and thinks, perhaps. But I am only guessing. I'm by no means an expert of necromancy and what it can or cannot do.
My concern here is haste to our destination, also haste to its conclusion.
She looks back again at you, Soto, and says, my walls are blank. It is clear to me that it is up to the five of you as to how destiny will be played out upon your arrival at the waterfall. But it would seem that you have choices to make.
We met with Witherroot, and he asked us if we would be what we would be willing to do. And I'm not sure we've ever fully answered that question.
She frowns a little when you mention Witherroot's name and says, oh, that old bag of branches. He has a long and sordid history, that one. I'm not sure how much I would trust him. He claims to have repented from his ways, yet it is he who imprisoned the child for eternity.
This is my concern. This bright star, it means quite a bit. And I don't want history itself.
Yes. Selene, you said there's so many bad things happening now that the Spiritsong has ended, but you also don't seem to think that what was done to create it was right. Do you know of another way?
She smiles at you and rests a gnarled old hand on yours and says, "My child, there will always be balance. It may take some time to find it, but it is one constant in this world that will never change. You 5 have an opportunity to find that balance."
Carla, darling, do you have Silverberry's tome?
I have it if you don't have it. Yes, I was reading it. Ba-ba! Pull it out.
Selene, did you tell there was any difference in his writing?
She looks at this tome, and it's like it's like seeing a long lost friend, like after decades. And she smiles and asks to see it. You give it to her.
I don't know who's holding it at this point, but
Okay.
yes.
All right, she takes it and gingerly walks over to the edge of this room that kind of leads down to the stairs, pulls out a little like stand to rest the table on, and opens the tome. And she turns back to you, Enid, and says, "Do you still have the telescope?"
I'll give her the telescope.
She takes the telescope, positions it in such a way that she's kind of looking up at the starry skies that during this conversation, the skies have continued to grow darker. Now the sun is completely set and it is full night. And she aligns the telescope with the stars, but instead of looking through it, she kind of points the eyepiece down at the page of the tome. And you can see as it does that, like magical writing start to appear in the tome. And she smiles when she sees that and says, "Ah, Silverberry, you've been busy." And she just kind of runs her fingers down these pages, turns the pages. And she gets close to the end. Not quite, maybe 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the book. And she frowns and says, And you can, looking over her shoulder at the pages, you can see up to this point, like blue magical writing appear whenever she turns the page. It's kind of magically it's kind of like scrolling across these sheets. But when after a certain time, she flips one page, and there's no more magical light, no more magical runes. It's just, And she kind of flips the page back and forth. That is odd. And she looks at the date, and the date corresponds to the date he would have returned back from that expeditions from the Outer Isles.
Is there anything like physically written in the book after that, or it's just blank?
It's same kind of almost meaningless scribbles, like star in this position, it's looking very bright tonight kind of thing. This kind of nonsensical stuff.
I'm like sitting there like this, like practically shaking, just making crazy eye contact with Enid, trying to like, obviously, you know what I'm thinking. You know what I'm thinking. I don't know that you know. With Lizzie.
Could I read any of the magical writing as it was, or was she flipping too quickly?
Oh no, you can read it. It seems as though it's recording the stories that the stars witnessed. So it's almost like a record of all the things that have happened, including your arrival at the outpost, including Harlow's time there. All of those things were recorded there. Mentions of Remy and Honey as well.
So just like timeline wise, when was this expedition?
This would have been when Harlow was a toddler.
Very young.
Very,
So
very
like
young.
nearly. Okay, actually, this is just a game mechanical question. Are we going with like years of life, like equivalent to humans, or are we going by like, okay, then probably like 24, 25 years ago?
So everything that's being magically written is like 25-ish years old.
And
Is that
previous
about
to
the
that,
like the same age of this mouse, or does the mouse feel older than that?
the mouse is older than that.
And like, if we move the telescope, the writing goes away.
So that's not angled towards pointing at the book. Yeah, then the writing disappears.
How close are Enid and Selene standing to one another right now, like side by side?
I imagine you're all kind of huddled around this tome, looking at it.
I'm gonna try to like make my way over to Enid on the opposite side of Selene. I'm gonna be like, Enid, Enid, Enid.
No, Vespers have really good hearing.
Oh, never mind. Everything's fine, and Silverberry is totally normal.
I don't think that's true.
I just does it seem like Selene is picking up on what I'm whispering?
Selene is lost in this tome. She has flipped almost all the way back to the beginning.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of pull Enid slightly away from the tome, take a couple steps while she's distracted. Be like, Enid, Silverberry is not Silverberry, and I don't know if we should mention it out loud to the lady who loves him.
I think, unfortunately, for anyone who has the power of deduction, that she's probably made the same conclusion that you and I have.
Probably, but I don't know. Sometimes when you love something, you're willing to overlook glaring red flags. Oh, that was too loud.
That being said, we only have circumstantial and experiential evidence. We don't have finite evidence. And the way she described Silverberry is the same under his mentorship. Very curious, very good. I learned a lot from him.
I'm gonna wave at Kokoro and see if we can like wrangle you to come over. Yeah.
It's a small room. You guys probably. It's hard to keep a conversation private in this tiny little room.
All right. Well, okay. At this point, I guess I'm giving up. I'm just like hustling over to Kokoro. Man. Okay, maybe we should just say the quiet part out loud and everyone can deal with it who maybe doesn't like it. But yeah, it really seems like your great whatever man is inhabiting the body of our old professor. Silverberry might be Crowmine.
Crowmine is Silverberry?
I think so! I'm gonna look over at Selene and see if she reacts.
She's still lost, and she's just smiling as she's looking at some early pages in the book.
Well, yep, it really seems like maybe he is. It really seems like the spirits of people are being put into other things like Mouse Body and maybe like Silverberry Body, but the writing in the book stopped. This hidden writing that only uses the telescope that she gave Silverberry stopped at the date of the expedition where also my parents died.
So Silverberry was at the copper vat with us. So that was Carmine.
Romine is like my adopted grandfather. We used to hang out and have tea.
So when we went to the luminarium,
Yeah, you're getting there.
fuck.
What happened at the luminarium? I wasn't there.
Old Bog scratching his head. He has no idea.
Yeah.
There, so.
So Enid was busy. Old Bog was sleeping on a chair. And I may or may not have gotten pulled out. And I talked to Silverberry outside of the luminarium.
You saw him? Like a couple days ago? Oh, okay.
Mhm.
What happened?
A flashback reminded me of when I first met him when I was a very, very young boy.
You
But I wasn't. Nothing malicious came from it. He was more enamored with the idea of fate and us. And I'm pretty sure he knows what we're meant for or who we're related to. I mean, if he's this old and he's been doing all this, like,
checking in. Okay. Well, that, I didn't know that you'd ever met Silverberry before.
I mean,
But
we met
it's-
at the Copper Vat when you guys just apparated there out of
even
nowhere.
Before that, like,
I didn't even remember that.
because you
Until
were so
Monday.
little. Well,
And little repressed memories, hate my parents. Yeah,
I mean,
little column A, little column hate.
if we're being totally honest, though, I don't think you have ever met Silverberry because it seems like it's your ancestor necromantic guy all along.
Silverberry's body.
Well, yeah, seems like it. Okay, well, this is startling news. I'm going to look out at everybody else and be like,
The question remains, however, whether it be Crowmine or Silverberry or whoever, like, what was the intention of giving us the information to follow or told by the stars?
He needs us for something. He needs us for something. He needs us for something. What does he need us for? What does he need us for?
Because it seems the question then further is, why Silverberry?
Well, is it Harlow related to some big shot from the past? Is an old Bog related to some big shot from the past? Isn't Sato related from some big shot from the past?
Not me.
Not me.
it's what we've been told. My lineage, my genealogy.
I mean,
showed
those
core-
records from Kieran, those are accurate. Like, he gave up his life for that information, so I don't really see that as a falsity.
And
So
Kieran said that they gave us like the real ones, not the ones they were supposed to falsify. But Silverberry, as he is now, if he's Crowmine or not, trusted Kieran also and wanted us to take the tome to Kieran. So, like, what does that mean?
I take out the feather. What does it mean?
Okay. Well,
What kind of bird was Kieran?
Hold on, I'll double check.
Gotta look back through the records.
Gotta love it when the players are like, hey, this is not important information that you...
I feel like I've been visualizing Kieran as a Luma this whole time, and I don't think I ever asked.
No, I think the portrait was it looked like a pigeon.
Yeah.
Pigeon vibes.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, Luma.
Yes.
It's a black one.
Do you think, okay, wild theory time.
Yes.
Has Silverberry, in anyone's recollection who's ever met him, been anything less than totally lovely and nice? Has he done anything to you that's pushed your life in a direction that was not good for you or hurt you?
When I was little, you could call it maybe like grooming with my parents, and it was kind of weird, but
What?
I don't recall ever meeting him at all.
Same.
Okay, so 3 of us have. Kokoro's had a weird, potentially, experience with him. I've had one weird but not necessarily bad experience with him and a lifetime of him being very nice to me. Is it possible that, like, okay, if there's a way to reinstate balance, does that mean maybe the Spiritsong isn't right either? Like, keeping all, like, undead away, is that how balance is supposed to be? Maybe we should just, wild theory, maybe we can just be buddies with him and be like, hey, you know my parents, this is your great 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 grandbird, and we want to be buddies.
I'm not quite sure what buddies with creator of the Necromantic Wars would look like.
Well, he's had 1,000 years to change his tune. Maybe, I mean, he hasn't had any wars in the last 20 years.
And arguably, we have been buddies.
It's true. I don't know. I mean, balance. I don't know. It's just all these, like, necromantic, like, magics that we've met so far. I kind of liked them. I liked them all so far. I haven't had any bad experiences except for that one weird tree. I'm not sure I'm super convinced that. I don't know.
Carlo, wasn't the bells, the chimes, also from the Outer Islands?
Yes. They're made with shells from the Outer Islands.
Seems as though the pieces are falling into place.
Yes. And like the dragonfly that is my dad's maker's mark, and the thing he called my mother is like this dragonfly that's only from the Outer Islands. and specifically responds to the Spiritsong's rhythm. Like it seems, yeah.
While you guys are having this discussion, Selene gently closes the tome. And she just stands there for a moment, staring at it. Lifts her head to look up at the stars. And without turning, she says, "You must go."
Where?
Find your bright star. It is time.
Okay.
And without a word, she takes her staff, leaves the tome and the telescope where they are, and starts making her way down the stairs.
Can I grab the tome and the telescope?
If you like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab them.
Okay.
Old Bug is the first one to get up from the table, grab his bat, follow.
All right. I need to know did any of you guys eat her meal?
Yeah.
Yeah, Old Bug did. He was chowing down.
I was
Yeah,
like,
sure.
during cooking, I was tasting.
All right. Kokoro, Soto. Soto, you said you no? Okay.
Pushed it away.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I ate.
All right. So she takes you down to the bottom of of the stairs, leads you around to a side of the tree between two massive roots. She looks up briefly at this green jewel or star or something that's shining brightly from a hole in the tree, and she spreads her hands wide and starts chanting. The language she uses, it doesn't sound like any language that any of you know. It sounds like the wind rustling through leaves. It sounds like birds chirping, crickets chirping. And as she casts this spell, you can see that gemstone kind of flash brightly for a brief moment. And before you, the trunk of this tree starts to split open. Hurry.
Soto's booking it. As soon as that thing opens.
Old Bug strides through, shoulders back, head up.
As you make your way through, she pauses. When you pass like beside her to go through the portal, Enid, she very quickly just kind of reaches out and grabs your arm for a moment.
I'm gonna grab her paws.
And when you turn to look back at her, her eyes are completely black and you see stars in them. And she says in this very distant voice, "Return home when you can." And then she almost pushes you forward and into the portal